This video contains content that may be confronting.
A British plastic and reconstructive surgeon who's working at the Nasser hospital in Khan Younis in southern Gaza has told the ABC of the horrifying aftermath of the latest wave of Israeli strikes, saying half of the patients she's working on are children. Dr. Victoria Rose, who's usually with the NHS in London, is just about to finish her most recent trip to Gaza. It's her third during this war. She also knows and has worked with the Palestinian doctor who recently lost 9 of her children in an Israeli airstrike.
The bulk of what we've been doing is, well, they're all blast injuries. Everybody that's been on the operating table has basically been bombed. It's tragic. 50% of them are children. So we started this morning with a 3-year-old that's got a 30% burn from an explosion in which he lost both his parents. Then after that, we had a little girl who was 5 and her sister is 6, and they were both in an explosion. She's lost most of her left arm and most of her left hand, and her sister's lost a huge chunk out of her left cheek and has damaged the facial nerve, which we've tried to repair this morning. Then, I mean, I can go on. It's pretty horrific. I think the worst ones we get really are the burns in children when they're huge percents. It's quite upsetting to think that it's not the sort of burn from a scalding kettle or something that you just can't avoid. It's somebody has purposefully dropped a bomb on you, and you are now, completely burnt. It's a really difficult one to deal with.
Has it always been this many children coming in?
No, it's not. When we first started coming, I first started coming in 2019. Ideals set up a project in 2013 trying to teach the local Palestinian orthopedic surgeons how to use some of the external fixator kit that we use in the UK. And when we first started coming, we were just seeing adults that had basically been shot in the leg during the sort of previous Great March of Return, gave us a lot of hunters, I suppose. But we never really saw that many children. And then since the war, it's just ramped up in numbers. When we came in March last year, I was quite shocked at how many children were on the operating table. And then in August, it was really quite substantial. But this has surpassed anything I've ever seen in my life before. It's well over half of them are children. And it's relentless, and they keep coming through the door.
What sort of conditions are you working in at the hospital?
We're pretty good in one of the theatres because it's an NGO-sponsored theatre, so it's not too bad. In the Ministry of Health building, because it's still funded by Gaza, it's pretty dire. But to be honest, both places now are running out of essentials. When we got here at the start of May, we were sort of running a scrap heap challenge kind of operation where we would substitute whatever we could for what we didn't have. And now we're getting into it's critical items that we can't really substitute. So we're running out of scalpel blades. We're running out of betadine, which is the solution that we prep the skin with before we operate. And we were told, I think it was 2 days ago, that we're probably going to run out of gauze swabs next week. And that's what the hospital's really worried about now, because that will bring a halt to most operating. They've already stopped distributing gauze swabs to the wards, so you can't use them on any of the wards. Then they've been sent specifically to the emergency department and to the operating theatres. But when we run out, that's something that we really can't improvise.
Have you come across malnourished children?
Yes, I mean, all the children are malnourished. They all look, and they have done for a while, younger than they actually are. So you see somebody that you think is 7, and then the local team tell me that they're 11 or 12. It's quite striking, the difference. We don't see the malnutrition that they have in the paediatric ward here, although I have been to the paediatric ward and seen sort of 3 or 4 of the kids that are chronically underweight and really struggling. But the children I see are all trauma cases, and what I notice in them is number one, the size, but number two, they're really struggling to heal the wounds that they've sustained, much more so than they were when we were here in August. And it's definitely due to their state of malnutrition and the fact that they're not getting the nutrients and vitamins they need. So cell turnover is very poor and they're not healing the wounds. We're also seeing an exponential rise in infection. Everything is getting infected. And that's a combination of the fact that we've not really got a lot of medicine here. We've only got 3 types of antibiotics. We're critically short of most drugs. I think 65% of all essential drugs we're out of. So it's a combination of both, but definitely the malnutrition is playing a huge part in the susceptibility of the kids to infection.
Your colleague, Dr. Ala Al-Najjar, lost 9 of her 10 children in an Israeli strike last week. Her husband and her 11-year-old son survived. How is Adam, the 11-year-old?
Adam's doing quite well, actually. We operated on him, I think, 2 days ago. My orthopedic colleagues had sort of seen him on the day that he arrived. And then we did some work 2 days ago. He had a bit of a head injury from the explosion that we were slightly worried about, because he had sort of some difficulty understanding initially, but it seems to be temporary, and now he's made a huge recovery from that. He's got a significant injury to his left arm. He's broken the humerus, which is the main bone in the top of the arm, and he's lost some of the muscle that bends the elbow and extends the elbow. He damaged one of the nerves as well that controls a lot of the wrist extension. So we've grafted that for him, but it looks like he should make a good recovery. He's young, so we're holding out quite a bit of hope for him. But we met up with Dr. Allah night before last just to update her.
And how is Dr. Ala?
Yeah, I mean, she's devastated. Her husband's still very critical, and obviously Adam's the only surviving child. It's a devastating situation for her, and a lot of the team that we work with, knew her very well. She's a pediatrician in the emergency department here, so she's been in the thick of it throughout this conflict, and it's been very difficult for people to take, but it's not unusual, not to lessen the load, but she's one of a huge number of people that have lost significant numbers of their family. I mean, it's estimated that there are 42,000 orphans in Gaza, and that's children that have been involved in a blast injury and lost every single member of their family. I think we're running now at 2,400 families have been completely eradicated from the civil registry. That's the whole of those families wiped out. And, the Palestinians aren't afraid of a big family. Most of them have got 6, 7 kids. It's not unusual. So it's a huge loss. But we do keep seeing children where only them and their sibling has survived, or they've lost virtually all their family members. It's a tragic but recurrent tale that we're seeing.
If you could stand up in front of the United Nations, what would you implore them to do right now?
Well, I wouldn't, because I think they're saying what I'm saying. So I have no beef with the United Nations. I'm totally behind what they've been saying for a long time. I think really it's the people that are making the job of the WHO and the United Nations so difficult that we need to speak to. I mean, this is a humanitarian issue, and lots of laws are being broken by stopping aid into Gaza. We need to look at that immediately, because if we let this slide, we're on a very slippery slope the next time. And I can't understand how we can just sit and watch this happen to an entire population. They're being starved, they're being bombed. It's absolutely outrageous. We need to put an end to this as soon as we can. We need to let the WHO and the United Nations do their job, and they need to be able to do it without the fear of being bombed themselves. We need aid into Gaza. That's medical aid, that's food, and that's healthcare workers. And we need it now.